first start off with a quote from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Said, Ramadan has come to you. It is a month of blessing in which Allah covers you with blessing. For He sends down mercy, decreases sin, and answers prayers. In it, Allah looks at your competition in good deeds and boasts about you to His angels. So show Allah goodness for yourselves. For the unfortunate one is he who is deprived in this month of the mercy of Allah, the Mighty, the Exalted. So, obviously in this month there are things that we abstain from that are permissible in regular times, but during the month of Ramadan we want to try to curtail those things for a certain amount of time, and that's for the sake of Allah, which is eating, drinking. We also want to lower our gazes, which we're supposed to do anyway, but we should be, I guess, focus more. Or I kind of look at it like, I guess, people in the West see the New Year's, and that it's a refresher or a way to rebuild your spirit, and you have new goals that you want to meet or reaffirm, and this is the time in which to do it. So we're lowering our gauge, which we should be doing throughout the year. To avoid arguing and fighting, avoid any sin. If you have bad habits like smoking, you want to also try to avoid those things, so ultimately you'll be able to stop them completely. And you also don't want to waste your time on useless activities. I was speaking to my wife earlier today about Facebook. So every year I take social media off my phone. And there was a brother whose name is, I think his name is Gerald Green. He was in the music business. He knew a lot of like big people in rap music, and he became a Muslim recently. And he sent me a message saying that he had posted my books on his page. And I told him I was, fasting from Facebook as well, but I appreciated what he did. So I looked at it through my wife's page, and I gave him. Told him I appreciated what he did for me. But she said, since you are doing things, most of the things you talk about are some things that are good, and why do you want to abstain from them? But social media as a mechanism of control and having some form of control over you, or you have some compulsion to look at it, is what I want to say that I can stop myself from doing for a certain amount of time. Whether it's for if I'm trying to provide something good to people, or I'm just talking about sports or whatever. Because there's some people on there who I think provide a lot of good information, and I'm trying to find another medium to actually see it. It's this guy they have this show called The Young Turks. I really like that media outlet. And one of the reporters there, his name is Hassan Piker, and he normally gives some good commentary. So I'm trying to find another medium in which to find him. I think he's on YouTube. Maybe my son will have to help me try to find him, or I just have to wait until the end of Ramadan. But social media, Instagram, is not really a means in which I don't, I should be able to avoid those, if I can. Also, swearing, lying, backbiting are things that we try to avoid. I generally don't do any of those things anyway, but you want to, reaffirm them. I was talking to somebody at my job, and I was quoting someone else, and I said a word that was a curse word, and they were like, laughing at me, or joking me about it because I said it. I guess I didn't say it properly. I said, really, people at my job, or things at my job, and circumstances don't drive me to curse, because a lot of people do. I said, the only people that make me curse are my children and my wife. Like, I care about them more, so when they do something that I don't appreciate or I don't like, maybe that's when I get upset. Not really my wife, but she don't have that, but my kids, yeah. So, but that was one thing that I had, a long time ago, I had decided I wanted to get rid of during Ramadan, is, cursing. I listened to rap music and things like that, so there was things that each year I have a list of things, or I try to, of things I want to correct about myself. Another thing is arguing, like they said, useless activity. A lot of times I argue, it's not for the sake of argument, but I know the end result will remain the same. So that's another thing I'm trying to work on, which I try, I think, every year, so we'll see how that goes. But Imam says something last year or maybe the year before, in which he said he would only fast for Allah. He said there would be no other reason that I would fast or go through this, except for Allah. So when composing these ayats and sayings from the Prophet, I was thinking about why we fast. And obviously Allah subscribes or prescribes us to fast. And we're doing it for Allah, but ultimately the reward is with ourselves. Allah can reap no benefit from this, whether we praise Him, whether we fast for Him, or whatever we do. Allah is still Allah, He's still supreme, and He is not diminished or increased by our fasting, but it is ourselves who benefit from it. So Allah says, O ye who believe, fasting is prescribed to you as it was prescribed to those before you, that you may learn taqwa. In Yusuf Ali, it is translated as self-restraint. In other verses, it's saying for righteousness. In other translations, they use righteousness, God-fearingness. All of those things are encompassed in taqwa. So further, it says, fasting for a fixed month of days for any of you is ill, for any of you is ill or on a journey. The prescribed number shall be made up from days later. For those who can't afford it, there is a ransom for feeding the poor. But if you will give more of your own free will, it is better for you. And it is better for you that ye fast, if you only knew. Ramadan is the month in which was sent down the Quran as a guidance to mankind. Also clear signs for guidance and judgment between right and wrong. So every one of you who is present at his home during the month should spend it in fasting. But if any of you is ill or on a journey, the prescribed period shall be made up by days later. Allah intends every facility for you. He does not want to put you into difficulties. He wants you to complete the prescribed period and to glorify Him and that He has guided you, and perchance you may be grateful. When His servants ask thee concerning me, I am indeed close to them. I listen to their prayers of every suppliant, which he calleth on me. Let him also with a will listen to my call and believe in me, that they may walk in the right way. Permitted to you on the night of the fast is the approach to your wives. They are your garments, and ye are their garments. Allah knoweth what you used to do in secret amongst yourselves, but He turned to you and forgave you. So now associate with them and seek what Allah hath ordained for you, and eat and drink until the white thread of dawn approaches to you distinct from the black thread. Then complete your fast till the night appears, but do not associate with your wives while you are in the retreat in the mosque. Those are the limits set by Allah. Approach not near thereof. Thus does Allah make clear His signs to man, that they may learn taqwa. Again, it's translated as self-restraint. Just in those verses, there's a lot that Allah is saying. And I thought the psychology that Allah is using on humanity when He says it is prescribed to you like it was prescribed to people before you. It's a psychology of almost of competition. As it said as the Prophet said in that first hadith that I mentioned, says Allah looks at you in your competition and good deeds. So it almost, at least to me, when I read it, I think about people in the past who have fasted and who have made it through in much more hard predicaments or circumstances than I have. And I should be able to complete the fast as they have done. There's a little more I wanted to mention about that, but I think I'll mention it further. But also just that Allah has given us, not also He gives us the mercy if we are ill or on a journey, a means to make that up. And it is obviously a time for us to reflect, to show some empathy and sympathy towards those who are less fortunate than we are. And it's a means of which Allah has given us forgiveness. If we are to do as He prescribed, and we are given a means of forgiveness and forgiving of our sins. Now, it mentions that the Quran was revealed in this month, and also, and we know on the day of Laylatul Qadr, or the night of power, the first revelation was sent down to the Prophet. And in Surah 97 it says, "And we indeed reveal the message in the night of power." What will explain to you what the night of power is? The night of power is better than 1,000 months. Therein came down the angels and the Spirit by Allah's permission on every errand. Peace, this until the rise of morn. So as mentioned in this ayah, the night of power is better than 1,000 months. And also for those who observe it in sincerity and within good intentions, you are forgiven your sins and forgiven your mistakes. Abu Hurairah mentions that the Prophet ﷺ says, "Whoever fasts during Ramadan out of sincere faith and hoping to attain Allah's reward, then all his past sins shall be forgiven." He also mentions, though, that there are many who fast, but they get nothing from their fast except hunger and thirst. And those who pray at night and get nothing but sleeplessness. And that would be because they don't have sincere faith and they don't have the understanding of what Allah has prescribed for us, and that it is a mercy to us. You know, Allah says He doesn't want hardship on us, but He wants us to fulfill that prescribed commandment. So He's saying, I don't want hardship on you, but doing this is something that will benefit you. And Allah is obviously the person the being that created us, so He knows best what is best for us. As the manufacturer makes a list of how this mechanism should work, whether it's a car, a television, or what have you, Allah has given us the Quran and given us the proper way, the manual in which we should live our lives. The Messenger of Allah is recorded as saying, on the last day before the month of Ramadan, he says, "O people, a great month has come over you, a blessed month, a month in which a night is better than 1,000 months. Month in which Allah has made it compulsory upon you to fast by day and voluntary to pray by night. Whosoever draws near to Allah by performing any of the optional good deeds in this month shall receive the same reward as performing an obligatory deed at any other time. And whoever performs an obligatory deed in this month shall receive the reward of performing 70 obligatory deeds at any time, at any other time. It is the month of patience. The reward of patience is paradise. It is the month of charity, a month in which a believer's sustenance is increased. Whoever gives food to a person fasting to break his fast shall have his sins forgiven, and he shall be saved from the fire of hell. And he shall have the same reward as the fasting person, without his reward being diminished at all." So over and over again, this month is a month in which Allah has given us a means to eradicate the past sins that we have committed. In the Quran, it mentions that we will not be dealt with in injustice in any length. So there is times when we commit a good deed, Allah gives us the reward for it, or He multiplies it. But if we commit a bad deed, then we will only be punished unless we don't repent for it, just for that deed. So He doesn't increase the punishment, He only increases the reward, and He gives us an opportunity or a means by having good deeds that can overshadow our bad deeds. Our good deeds, some good deeds that we perform are so good or so beneficial, not just to us but to humanity, that it can nullify or eradicate other of our bad deeds. And of Allah, except that Allah removes the hellfire 70 years further away from His face. I think that was the second time that 70 is used. It seems to be used more as symbolism, not necessarily an actual date. But it says that the hellfire will be removed from His face further away from His face for 70 years. Now there is some debate on the extent that one is to be in the hellfire. You know, in the Quran, it talks about being in paradise. It says you'll be in paradise and there will be no end to it. Now, there is a verse in the Quran that talks about hellfire, and it seems as though Allah is saying that it is relative, not necessarily literal, because He says you will be in hellfire forever, except as Allah wills. So there is an opportunity for some people to not be in hell. And this verse, in my estimation, kind of points to some people may be in hell and they may not remain there. But at any rate, There are several other ayats, or there's several other narrations from the Prophet about fasting. Another one says, the fast and the Quran are two intercessors for the servant of Allah on the day of resurrection. The fast will say, O Lord, I protected them from food and desires during the day. Let me be their intercessor. The Quran will say, I protected them from sleeping at night. Let me intercede for them, and their intercession will be accepted. Now, I always like when like the hadith or the Quran mentions and what we deem as an inanimate object speaking. The reason I do that is because, the reason I like that is just because we see it initially, may see it as something far-fetched until we realize our own nature. Like when the Quran says your hands and your body and you will speak out against you. But ourselves as human beings is nothing more than earth and water. And Allah has given it the power to speak. So why isn't it that Allah wouldn't be able to give fasting or the Quran speech, whether it is given literally or figuratively? Allah literally gave mud and water the ability to speak, to reproduce, to speak to you now, to affect the solar system, to affect everything. So Allah has the power over all things. There are some people who said, I know this one comedian who jokes about Christians believing in a talking snake, as if he wasn't talking, walking mud, or that's all he is. That's all human beings are. That's why when we go back into this earth, we'll absorb back into what this earth is. So Allah is able to do those things. But again, anyway, back to the message. The Prophet is also recorded as saying, well, a man came to him and said, order me to do a good deed that allows me to enter paradise. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, stick to fasting, as there is no equivalent to it. Then the man came to him again, and again he said, stick to fasting. So this is how important fasting is. He said there's no equivalent to it. I remember when I was 13 or 14, I was in high school and I was fasting, and I felt accomplished every single day. I remember also sometimes I was going through the day and there's like a water fountain in all the hallways. And one time I made a mistake and drank some water out of the water fountain. I was like pissed at myself. I was like, man, I can't believe I did that. But now as I get older, I realized it was nothing more than a mistake. But as a child, I was thinking, man, I can't believe I did that. I didn't eat anymore. I still continue to fast, but I was like, I wonder if this happens. You know what I mean? But obviously, I realize now as I get older, Allah judges on your intentions, and it's something that I just did routinely. So walking past it, I did it then. I was just thinking about it before I got up here. I normally have a cup of water here because I always dehydrated. I guess my nerves when talking in front of people. But the last two more that I wanted to mention. One of them said, the time between the 5 prayers, the 2 consecutive Jummah prayers, the 2 consecutive Ramadans are expiations for all that has happened during that time, provided that one has avoided the grave or major sins. So Allah has given us so many provisions, so many means in which to eradicate our previous sins. I thought this also kind of related to the verse, the hadith mentioned earlier about your past sins will be forgiven, because people often ask me about that, like all of your sins will be forgiven. It seems like there's a qualifier here in this, at least in this hadith, which says all of your major sins, unless you avoid major sins. Like if you killed someone, you can't fast, and then you'll be fine with it. So at least to me, it spoke to that. And the last one that's mentioned I was thinking about is fasting is a shield with which a servant protects himself from the hellfire. So again, this just speaks to the importance of fasting and the virtue of fasting. Allah has given us a provision and given us a means in which we can fast for 30 days, and it makes us a stronger, better person, and it gives us the shield from hellfire. It gives us almost a guarantee into paradise, but it gives us something, a guarantee away from hellfire, at least for a certain amount of time. Now, the first time I think I spoke in front of a crowd of people was at Strayer University. And this was maybe 5 years ago, possibly. My brother's wife went to school there, and she did a report on me because I had written a couple books on religion. So her professor there asked me to come in and speak to the religions class. It was a class on religion, and it was during the month of Ramadan. And I was like stressing the whole day, thinking, first of all, I'm nervous as I'm going in front of a bunch of people, and they're probably gonna have a lot of questions because they're in a religions class. I'm gonna be parched. So initially, the first thing I did was went in is I said, listen, it's Ramadan, so my mouth might be dry. This is the first time I'm speaking in front of anyone. Also, I think another thing we did, I sat down instead of standing up, so that it kind of eased the situation, eased the tension. And then I also explained that it was not necessarily it wasn't a debate. I was just going there to give my experience as a Muslim and my understanding of Al-Islam. So it worked out perfectly. It was such a great success that I had been there repeatedly. I've probably taught in front of maybe 20 of his classes. He's a Christian. His name is McDonald, Bruce McDonald. He's a very, very compassionate, very intelligent person. And he's probably now, because he goes for sabbaticals into different countries. He's been to the Philippines routinely to help with humanitarian efforts. But I do appreciate him giving me that opportunity, because what he was doing was giving me an opportunity to dispel any myths that people had about the religion when he had no obligation to do so. And it was a very, very good experience. Also, at the end of it, he would ask the classes what they remembered most, and most often they mentioned my talk was what they remembered most, because they had a negative connotation of Al-Islam or a negative perception of Al-Islam, and I helped to change some of their views. Every time he does that, every time they do it, he sends me a snippet of what they said, and I always give him thanks for that. He said, so initially my name was Campbell, right? His name is McDonald. And he said it was strange that the McDonald's and Campbell's got along together so well, because him and I we sent emails back and forth to each other and asked how he's doing and all that. And he said, but historically the McDonald's and the Campbell's were rivals. I think they were Irish and Scottish, and they always had rivalries. But I haven't met him since I changed. I haven't seen him since I changed my name. So I wonder what what he thinks now. But I didn't think Campbell represented me properly, so I changed it. But that's neither here nor there. But another thing I was worried about was people coming to me and I had the fasting breath, because people come at the end to shake your hand and all that. So I tell people beforehand, I also have scope. Like when I have at work, I have a business appointment. I got to go meet someone. I try to make sure my breath is at least fresh, because this might be the only time they ever see me. So I don't want them to think, oh man, their first impression and last impression of this dude, man, got the Ramadan breath, but they don't know Muslim. What you got to say?
Fasting breath is sweet to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Absolutely. Actually, that was the next hadith that I was about to mention. It says, on authority of Abu Hurairah, again, about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, Allah says, fasting is mine. It is I who gives reward for it. A man gives up his sexual desires, his food, and his drink for my sake. Fasting is like a shield, and he who fasts has two joys. A joy when he has broken his fast, and a joy when he meets his Lord. The change in breath of the mouth of him who fasts is better in Allah's estimation than the smell of musk. So that just resonated with me when I, put this verse in here. Just even though I've heard it repeatedly, when you know that the creator of the universe is thinking about you. And even when I'm saying these words, it just makes me reflect that these are the words of the creator of the universe. He's talking to me. He's giving me a prescription to better my life. And I think if other people were able to appreciate that and understand that, they would better their lives as well. So again, I wanted to mention, in the Quran, it was talking about fasting is prescribed for you like it was prescribed to people before you. It's a psychology. It's almost a challenge to you that other people have done it, so you should be able to do it as well. So I looked up the meaning of the word Ramadan. It comes from the word Ramidah. And that word means to be burning, heat, scorching, or burning heat. And this was named because of the month in which they were fasting was such a hot month. So people in Arabia, people in Mecca, had to deal with a scorching heat during the month of Ramadan. So we have it to where sometimes Ramadan comes in the winter. You know, obviously it's a shorter month and it's easier to deal with because we are hydrated. We're sweating less, so we know it's easier for us to deal with. So again, if we think about people before us who had to fast, not just people in Mecca and Medina, but throughout history who fasted, the other prophets and the followers of those prophets, if they were able to do it without air conditioning, without any of the benefits that we have, whether it's air conditioning in a building or air conditioning in our cars, those who had food that was scarce, you know, who had to kill for their food, they were fasting. So what we're going through is not nearly as difficult as what they went through. And it reminds me of the book, Muslims, the African Muslims in slavery. I think it was called Servants of Allah. And that they still fasted. That's something that, I try to remind myself of every year, is that they were in the most horrid conditions known to man, and they still fasted. They didn't know their food was dispersed to them when they felt like it, you know, food and drink, and they still fasted. So if they were able to do it, why shouldn't I be able to do it as well? But the word Ramida also means to sharpen with stones, like to sharpen a spear. So it means burning heat, and it means scorching heat, but it also means to sharpen. So I thought that is indicative of what we're doing. You know how they say metal sharpens metal. So this month of Ramadan, this prescription for us to fast sharpens us, makes us stronger. And there are obviously benefits to fasting. One of them that I know, at least I feel, is strong-mindedness. I feel like I can do things that other people can't do. And I know that they are able to do it, but their mental block won't allow them to do it. You know, whenever I fast and someone knows about it, I try to keep it discreet as possible. But throughout the day, people are going to lunch, people are drinking and eating, and they see that I'm not eating or drinking, and they always ask me. One time I remember I was at work, I was on the truck and I was working, and the sales rep brought me a milkshake, right? And I had a trainee with me. I was so thankful that she got it for me. I said, because she did it because I had done some favor for her with some customers. So I just set it down, and once she left, I poured it out, right? And then the trainee was like, "Why you poured it out, man?" I was like, "I'm fasting," but I did appreciate that she gave it to me. I was like, "What's the difference between me throwing it out and me drinking it?" You know, she didn't know. So, but there are other people. My manager at the time also he couldn't believe that I was fasting. He said he was going to come out there and help me, even though he never came out to help me. Because he said he couldn't do it. He said he gets headaches. Another person said they get headaches when they don't eat. Another person said they're irritable. They'll probably want to fight if they don't eat. And I've been doing it since I was a teenager, so I know you can do it. I know I can do it, and it makes me feel like I'm able to do things that other people aren't able to do, just because their mental block won't allow them to do it. They think that they are not strong enough to do it, but I know I'm strong enough to do it. So I didn't even do, I tried to do a cold turkey, kind of gradually get into fasting, which I don't see any problem with. And maybe as I get older, I may begin to do that, or if I feel it more difficult to do, but I try to do a cold turkey just to get the real effects of it, and it just makes me feel strong-minded, strong-willed, And obviously there are quantifiable health benefits to fasting. The United States National Library of Medicine said Ramadan fasting causes many physiological, biochemical, and spiritual changes in the body. It also says that it can increase the red and white blood cells, which decreases the blood cholesterol levels, I'm sorry, in fasting, causing the body to heal the body faster, and it could prevent some cancer in some cases. So obviously there are some, the people in the medical profession see that there are some health benefits to it. There are benefits, as I mentioned, I think a couple weeks ago, I do have high cholesterol. So in fasting, it can lower my cholesterol level, but also my cholesterol is due to my own body creates more cholesterol than it needs. But at any rate, other habits, as I mentioned, was smoking and drinking sugary foods is something that we want to abstain from and ultimately banish if possible. So we try to abstain from those, and we definitely abstain from them from sunrise to sunset. And both of those things are beneficial to our bodies if we're able to give our body a chance to heal and to do the work that it's supposed to do. I don't know if any of this happens to you all, but I get the call of nature more often when I'm fasting, and I think about it, it feels like, my body is working, you know what I mean? So it's not working in overdrive, because there's sometimes when I just snack on food just because it's there, not because I'm hungry. So my body is always breaking down food, but when I give it a chance to do what it's supposed to do without doing any extra work, it seems like it works more, it does work more efficiently. And as I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I have an addiction to social media, but I know that I can curtail it. I know I can stop it for a certain amount of time. So that also gives me some solace in that whatever it is that I do that is extracurricular, that is outside the realm of Al-Islam, I can stop it, you know? And also, not eating, like I said, eating gives your body a chance to rebuild itself. It also boosts your immune system. It says vitamin A and E are good antioxidants and readily available in fruits. So we break our fasting with dates. If we don't have dates, then we break it with something natural, with fruits or with water. So obviously that would help our bodies to help boost our immune system. And it also fosters weight loss and detoxification. If you maintain a healthy and balanced diet, despite some of the misconception, fasting will not result in weight gain. In fact, fasting promotes rapid weight loss. It reduces the storage of fats in the body. In combination with regular exercise, even low-impact ones, such as a brisk walk before iftar, it will speed up your metabolism and promote weight loss. So all of these things, Allah has given, even in our what we deem or what we can see as some difficulty or some hardship, we still reap the benefits from those. At the end of the day, you feel like you've accomplished something. At the end of the month, you have accomplished something. You feel like you are able to move mountains because you have done something that most people don't do. And just thinking about that, I was also looking kind of into what other religions do in terms of fasting and what is prescribed for fasting. So in Buddhism, some of the Buddhist monks and nuns fast. Now in Buddhism, they don't have a centralized doctrine like the Quran is. So it is really, really arbitrary. It's up to them. So they determine whether they fast and how long they fast. The same thing in Hinduism. Some people fast, some people don't. Because Hinduism is really a collection of beliefs, Hinduism, or people who subscribe to Hinduism, do a lot of different things. They believe a lot of different things. Some of them are monotheists, some of them are polytheists. That's how wide scope that their religion is. That it was a mixture of all the religions put into one and called Hinduism. But it really is, I think, what is the word for it means eternal teachings. But they have so many scriptures, it's not one doctrine of what they ought to do. And then the religion called Bahia, they fast about 19 to 20 days. And if you know anything about it, they kind of correlate, or they kind of encompass, they kind of use some of Al-Islam. But they also don't fast as long as we do. They fast for 19 to 20 days. They believe in the prophets, but they added another prophet whose name is Bahia. Bahia, I think that's what his name is. But they fast for 19 to 20 days, and then in the traditional observant Jews fast for 6 days throughout the year. One of them is, the two major ones is Yom Kippur and their New Year's. They fast the entire day. And then they fast 4 other minor holidays. But these are separated throughout the year. And as it pertains to Christianity, it says fasting is prescribed in several Christian denominations And in some others, it is not practiced at all. It is a practice that is not, there's no real doctrine of what you should and shouldn't do. Because they have what I would see as a dilemma in that they have a book of stories, they don't have a book really of doctrine. After what they have in the Torah, which is a list of rules and regulations, but they believe that that is nullified now that Jesus is here. So they don't have a real doctrine. So some of them fast and some of them don't. And their fast is kind of partial fast, in that they will fast from certain things, like some of them fast from meat and milk throughout the day. Some of them fast for half a day. And there's no real set time. There's no real set anything that you're supposed to do. We know, at least in the Gospels, it says that Jesus fasted for 40 days and for 40 nights. He couldn't literally fast for 40 days and 40 nights because he would die. So, but it does say that he fasted. So in that tradition, there are some Christians who fast. If they fast for 40 days, they don't eat a certain meat, but they don't completely fast from food and water for 40 days and for 40 nights, and there is no set doctrine of what you are supposed to do. However, I did find that it was interesting in the book of Isaiah, which is used by Christians, and the book of Isaiah is used because it is said by Christians that it foretells the coming of Jesus. It talks about God rebuking the nation of Israel for fasting, and it also explains what fasting is about. So in Isaiah it says, "Is not this the fast that I chose?" This is what God is saying to the children of Israel. Is not this the fast that I chose, to loosen the bonds of wickedness, to undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry, and feed the homeless, pour and bring the poor and homeless into your house, when you see the naked, to cover them, and not to hide yourself from your own king? Then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring up quickly. Your vindicator go before you, and the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. Then you shall call, and the Lord will answer. You will call for help, and he will say, "Here I am." So in these verses, it quantifies a lot of what we believe, in that we prescribe to fast. We are prescribed to help the homeless, to clothe those in need. And in doing so, Allah will reveal himself to us and answer our prayers more earnestly. So this is how important fasting should be to them, even though they only pray. Jewish people pray 6 days throughout the year, and it is not an obligation for Christians to pray at all. In my estimation, most of them don't fast at all. If they do, it is partial fast. So what would Allah prescribe for people who don't have a structure in their fasting, who don't have a definite decree in their fasting? In the same way with prayers, there is no definitive way a Jewish person or a Christian is supposed to pray. So what would Allah decree in order to prescribe them to have a definitive structure, a definitive time that they pray, a definitive time in or a definitive manner in which they pray? What that is Al-Islam. Again, over and over again, Al-Islam is the completion and the correction of all previous scriptures. When they don't know how to fast, or how to pray, or when to fast, or when to pray, Al-Islam gives them that direction. It says in these verses in Isaiah how important fasting is, and that Allah is saying to them that this is how important fasting is, and this is why you should fast. And it says when they do this, and they call to Allah, Allah will say, "Here I am." So if they follow as we follow, if they pray as we pray, if they fast it as we fast, then Allah will say, "Here I am." Any questions? Yes.
I had a comment. I had a lot of comments. That was very good material. Shukran. I know they say when you're traveling, you can you're exempt from the fast. Imam, yeah, and I heard you say Imam said outside of Ramadan, if this fast wasn't for Allah, they have a hard time fasting.
Mhm.
I told him the same thing.
Mhm.
And we made a trip up to Philadelphia to pick up some meat for the Eid one year. And he's such a great guy because he felt like I didn't want to break fast. I traveled back and forth to
Mhm.
North Carolina. I don't break fast
Mhm.
because it's so hard for me to make up
Mhm.
after Ramadan.
Yeah.
I'm in the Ramadan spirit.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Don't stop me. And plus, it's not like I'm on a camel and it's going to take me a day.
Yeah, a day to get there.
Yeah,
Yes.
Philadelphia's like 5.5
Mhm.
hours. And he was saying how Imam Muhammad had said that it's like Allah giving you a gift and you're throwing it back
Mhm.
at it.
Mhm.
And so me and him got in a real argument about, not an argument, but we were
Mhm.
debating about it. But anyhow, we went up. For me,
Mhm.
he didn't break the fast.
Mhm.
He did that for me. And
Mhm.
he's just a wonderful guy like that.
Mhm.
Because I told him, you know, I said, well, if you want, whatever you want to do, man. But it's just hard for me to make up a day outside of Ramadan. Listen, there's no hardship. Alhamdulillah.
Mhm.
You mention the word hardship and fasting. Alhamdulillah. Allah's blessed me to where I sound this brother used to be.
Mhm.
I used to understand when I came in the team, was going, Ramadan. I'm thinking, But now it's like, it's your chance to shine.
Mhm.
You know, this is your chance to shine. And sometimes, if you didn't have to break the fast, if we didn't have that on us, a lot of us would say, oh, now I'm not breaking this fast.
Yeah.
Because we're so into, I could do this for Allah. This
Mhm.
is for Allah.
Yep.
You know?
I feel the same way when you're traveling and it's a lot. If I can still do it at the same time, you know, without going into different time zones, because I haven't traveled very far anyway.
Right.
But maybe from here to DC, like sometimes I think we went to Philly. I think they did the prayer where it was for the traveler prayer. But I feel like if I'm able to do it and it doesn't affect me, I mean, I can still do it. The same thing with fasting. If I can travel and make it through without, you know, any hardships,
There's no
I would
hardship.
try to do it, you know.
Right.
But I do understand that as well, that Allah is giving you this mercy. It's really up to you. In the same way that, you know, like Allah gives us provisions or permission to do certain things, and He gives us an option. You can do it this way or that way. So I feel like if I can fast, then I'll do it.
Right. But it's a beautiful, this is beautiful. Ramadan is beautiful. And each and every Ramadan to me is just, it's more beautiful than, this is beautiful because I'm home with my family this Ramadan. And last Ramadan I was by myself. Matter of fact, the only community that I would go to would be like 80 miles away. so I was basically by myself, except for June I'd make it to the masjid.
Alhamdulillah, it's been easier for me these last couple years. I used to work in the sun, you know, doing a lot of manual labor, and it was pretty labor intensive. So what I would do is just get a break whenever I could into a building, and rest wherever, you know, and get some air conditioning or whatever. But it's gotten easier. Initially, when the first job I had was in a grocery store. So, and they had a deli there, smelling all kinds of food and stuff like that. But it really didn't bother me. That didn't bother me at all. You know.
I used to be a firefighter, and I can remember Ramadan maybe 33 years ago, come this time of year. I remember one time I was out on 2 jobs. I went back to back, 2 5s, and I was on my knees in this building. And I said, if I get back out to this truck, I'm gonna have to break my fast. And I got back out of the truck and I got some water because we got another alarm for another fire. And I wouldn't have been able to make it, but I did as much as I could without breaking it. You know, but and then again, like you said, Allah lets us. He doesn't want us to kill ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was telling the sister. You know, it was the new shahada. I was telling her about it. She took the shahada one week, the next week Ramadan. So she was like,
did she know about that?
Well, she was very eager to do it, so I don't think that would have deterred her. But I'm sure she was like, man, what I get myself into? You know? I told her, you know, like this is your first time doing it in ever. You know what I mean? Right. So you know, do what you can do. You know, but I'm sure she is thinking, oh man. But I think she's doing well. I wish she had been here today. That's how she's doing.
I think the first time, Nation of Islam, December.
Mm-hmm.
We fast during the month of December, which was like What is that?
almost like
A lot of
cake.
times, a lot of brothers didn't even eat during the day anyhow,
Yeah.
because he working or whatever, so that was really nothing.
And they had the, what was it, to eat to live, so you only eat one time a day anyway, right?
Supposedly.
Supposedly, huh?
I
But
just-
I felt like you were saying, I felt like that made me different from everybody else, if I can do it. You know, even as a child, when I was in high school, I felt like I know everybody eating lunch. I'm not. I'm tougher than them. I know I can do this. You know what I mean? I know they can't. So I felt some sense of pride, even though I know that's not a good thing all the time. I did feel that way. Yes, sir.
That's not late. I've been bothering me for a long, long time. Everybody wants to go to Jannah.
Mm-hmm.
You live to go to Jannah. But nobody seems to know where Jannah is.
Mm-hmm.
The Quran says, of the hereafter they are short.
Mm-hmm.
When Adam was in the garden, he was in Jannah.
Mm-hmm.
He put him in the garden naturally.
Mm-hmm.
He did not suffer a physical death.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that we do not have to die to enter Jannah. How did Adam get out of Jannah? By disobeying Allah's guidance.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me right there that when a person lives within Allah's guidance, he's in Jannah. This is why the people that's in hell, as they turn their way and turn to Allah and enter Allah's guidance, they can go into God.
Mm-hmm.
And a whole lot more people, especially people over the east and whatnot, thinking that they're going to kill somebody and going to get some virgins. It is not happening. There's only one God, Allah. He's eternal. And the only way that we can be eternal is to follow his guidance so that we will remain in his memory forever. Like Prophet Muhammad and all the rest of the prophets. But don't let people mislead you, get you all spaced out. Allah's guidance, that's the Jannah. That's the protection.
It was,
That's our salvation.
Was you for the Cookball Friday?
Sir,
The Cookball Friday, was you?
I wasn't here Friday.
As the brother was talking, just what you're saying.
Alhamdulillah.
That when you follow Allah's, when you're obedient to Allah, you've attained that peace.
Mhm.
He said, he talking about millionaires.
Mhm.
They ask what's peace and happiness. They can't put
Yeah.
their finger on
Yeah.
it. They don't know.
Let me say one other thing.
But when you live it, go ahead.
Another thing. You might not feel nothing right now when you first come into Islam and start to follow the guidance. But as you grow and grow, your heart gets pure and pure, your deeds get heavy and heavy.
Go ahead, brother. I'm gonna take your time. Allah's Akbar. Take your time.
Allah will bless you with joy and bliss. I know this for a fact, because Allah has blessed me. So I just pray to Allah that during this Ramadan, that Muslims all over the world, at least this whole Adam, open their eyes up and let them know that you don't have to die to go to Jannah. This is not, you can in the Jannah right here in the guidance of Allah is Jannah. Simple as that.
Brother, I was saying to the imam, and I was saying to someone, this Ramadan has got me full of tears. I've cried myself through this Ramadan. just so grateful that Allah made me a Muslim.
Alhamdulillah.
Just so grateful, because we Africans, Americans, this thing is so far from us. But he chose you, me. He wanted us to be Muslim. So what a beautiful favor he gave us. And then he gives us a month of Ramadan where we can do something. How do you do something for Allah? How do you do something for Allah? Well, he says, this is for my pleasure. This is for his pleasure.
sacrifice
And
for
another
love,
thing,
right?
I'm getting older, so a lot of people, I know they're on medication, and I thank Allah that I can fast still. You know, I can still